The African American scientist that I have decided to present today is the accomplished Dr. Betty Wright, an organic analytical chemist. Betty Wright was born July 20th, 1940 in northeastern Louisiana. Betty entered college at the age of 16. She first attended Southern University, which is now Clark Atlanta, and earned her master's degree in chemistry. She went on to earn her doctorate in chemistry at University of Mexico. Her well-accomplished education can be thanks to her upbringing and environment and the social justice issue her and her family had to endure. Betty Harris and her 11 siblings were raised by her parents, Greta Thomas, an educator, and Henry Hudson, aka Jack, a farmer. Betty was born into the age of Jim Crow segregation and the Great Depression. Jim Crow were a series of policies that were put in place to degrade and discriminate against African Americans. These laws allow for things like hate and violence against a group of people that were perceived as inferior. Because of these laws, Jim Crow furthered segregation laws that separated white from colored people.
Slaves, simply because they were born black, were now free. But in little over a decade, that promise was gone, replaced by a rigid system of laws designed to keep blacks from experiencing any of their newly achieved rights. It would be known as the era of Jim Crow, the American form of racial apartheid.
But I tried to lean inside and get me a cup of water. And those white people beat me till I was unconscious. They thought I was dead.
Not only was Betty Harris born into the Great Depression, which was an essential time for farmers, but also she was born into World War II, which may have sparked her interest in becoming a chemist.
Was at an all-time high, standing at approximately 25% at the peak of the Great Depression. At the same time, unemployment for Black Americans was as high as 50% overall and as high as 70% in some cities like Atlanta, Georgia. Part of this did have to do with the stock market crash, but it also had to do with other forces, like agricultural changes and natural disasters. For example, in the rural South, where many Black Americans lived, agriculture was becoming increasingly industrialized, which pushed many Black folks out of work. There was also a decrease in consumer demand for cotton and sugar, which led to overproduction and a serious decline in prices.
Because of the significant impact this had on her family, they were forced to persevere through hard times, meaning income in the home was not steady because of the lack of pay and education with African Americans and the crash in the farming industry. Thus, her family was forced to live in poverty. Throughout all these traumatic events happening in Betty Harris's life, she still managed to stick with her mother's values and went to have an excellent education that led her to teaching chemistry and mathematics at Mississippi Valley and Southern University. She completed her doctoral at the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. Harris accepted an offer to work at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, also known as LANL. There she began to specialize in studies of explosive and nuclear weapons, developing enterprise in various areas, including cleaning up hazardous materials and environment restoration. A typical spot procedure, a drop of chemical reagent is added to a drop of unknown mixture. If the substance under the study is present, it produces a chemical reaction characterized by one or more unique observable color changes. Spot tests are simple chemical procedures that uniquely identify a substance. They can be performed on small samples, even microscopic samples of matter, with no preliminary separation. Although Dr. Betty Harris was a chemist and she worked with explosives, she also used her platform to reach out to young children as well. She worked with outreach to young people, including with Girl Scouts, in developing badges based in chemistry. Harris has been a member of an American Chemical Society for 5 decades. She is also a member of the Women in Science and Engineering and the American Society of Advancement of Science. She served as a president of New Mexico Business and Professional Women Organization in 1999 and received a Governor's Award of Outstanding New Mexico Women. I chose Dr. Betty Harris because she took what she knew, she took the things that she learned in her childhood and took the situations that she was put in to help build her to become the person she is. Being born into a war sparked an interest in becoming a chemist and dealing with explosives because she was able to create inventions that would help detect and diffuse bombs that could potentially hurt her society. I want to be a woman like her, someone who reaches out to other young people and tell them that they are worth more than what society tells them that they are.